Welcome to the Wiggly Podcast, and we today are in the Wiggly, what shall we describe it as?
Hut.
Pagoda? Shed?
We called it,
Pipism.
originally, its genesis was a talks pavilion, wasn't it?
Oh, darling!
Do you remember? And,
I do.
And I think it's subsequently it's been called many things, especially by me last year when the rain was driving through it. And it was offering no protection whatsoever. But
You're such a moaner. Look at this epitome of luxury.
Yeah.
This now is a 5-star talks pavilion, and do you know why? It has shutters.
And they are rather useful shutters, I think. Practical and endearing in one foul swoop.
Anyway, I'm Heather from Wiggly Wigglers.
I'm Farmer Phil.
And I'm Richard.
Oh.
Occasionally of Wiggly Wigglers.
I was just going to say, have you all left? Anyway, we're at Hay Festival, and we are in the field at Hay Festival, which I think is called worst weather field in the world. I think you can set off from any direction, anywhere, whether that's Webley, London, New York, and everything is sunny until you approach this field.
That's very true, you know.
Yeah.
I left home this morning. It wasn't a bad
beautiful.
day. I got up here and it's blowing a bit of a hoolie.
Yeah, and I think this is worst weather field.
We are used to it here, aren't we?
We are.
This week's show, we've got Jen and Beck, who are setting up a floristry with My Dream Farm. We got some mega big news about the Wiggly Podcast, which has now had, in one day, 2.6 squillion listeners. Woo!
2.6, what does that mean in real terms then?
2.6 with 6 noughts on it, Rich.
Million.
I know you have trouble with your decimal points.
2.6, yeah, it's great. 2.6 million listeners
Yeah.
in a day.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
I can have it right. Is that right?
You'll find out later, Richard. Anyway, first of all, we're going to tour the Wiggly Garden. We're going to find out what's going on, and we're going to tell you all about Hay Festival. The economy of Hay and surrounding areas has a massive boost during this time. What do you reckon?
I reckon you're absolutely right. There was a feature this morning on Evan Davis was talking to a lady artist down in Hay-on-Wye who only opens her home up during the festival, so that people kind of flood in and see all the amazing work, a lot of landscape stuff. She was certainly in her 70s now, and she started when she was 68. And she rather regrets she's sort of left it this late because she's become a huge success. And for the life of me, I can't remember what she's called, but it's a real example of having the opportunity to achieve something. Obviously, she's very talented, but because of this massive influx of people from all over the world, people that are in various sort of significant positions in life, she's done very well. And I think that's probably echoed right away across the whole town.
Jane the Burger Lass, Extreme Organic, she does well in Hay Festival.
Does she?
Yeah. She gets her own lamb and makes her own burgers, and she sells them from the stand just up there.
Right.
She does a mean bacon and egg butty.
Yeah.
A mean bacon and egg butty.
Actually, Sandra brought us all one yesterday,
yes,
I think.
heard rumour
Yeah, it was
of Wiggly
quite nice.
budget being spent.
Yeah.
It had to, excellent. It had to be okayed once back at base. No. What about farmers, Phil?
Well, I mean,
they get a lot of tractor work, don't they?
Yeah, when it pours with rain and they have to be hurriedly employed to come and pull all the cars out. But I mean, the whole locality gets this huge boost from 100,000 people come here. They're all, by and large, quite well-to-do. They spend money in the pubs, they stay in the guest houses. Some of them are staying on campsites on farms. But it's like a sort of early summer advert PR campaign for the area, so that then throughout the rest of the summer, you know, you've got people coming canoeing on the Wye, you've got people coming for the bookshops and all the other things that Hay and the surrounding areas have got to offer.
Yeah.
And of course you get media interest through the TV and so on. It goes worldwide thanks to the VIPs who come and speak here.
Do you know who we had tea with last night?
You did mention that you bumped into was it Marianne Faithfull?
No. Mariella Frostrop. Unfortunately, she didn't speak. And nor did we were too shy.
Do not go and say, can I have your photo? Can I have my photo taken with you?
No. I was just
can't
having my
imagine doing that.
Peroni. No.
Can you imagine walking up to someone and saying, could I have your autograph, please?
Yes, I went up to Alvin Hall and
Why
said,
did you do that?
I love your show.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's a bit different, isn't it? I mean, that's
it is a
complimenting someone when
Yeah.
they're in a queue at the airport. You know, you don't want to go up to someone when they're enjoying
their tea.
having a nice bit of food and
Yeah.
can I have your autograph?
She had muscles by
I
then.
used to work for
Yeah.
Probably
somebody
works
who from time to time had their autograph required of them, and because it was involving horses, it was always sort of 12 and 13-year-old girls. And I said to her, but then you ever get fed up with people coming and asking you to sign their copy of Your Pony or whatever? And she said, no, it just massages my ego beautifully.
Yeah.
And on that note, this garden was your idea, wasn't it, Rich? This is your dream, this permanent garden.
It was something that a few years ago we aspired to, certainly.
Yeah. Well, I don't think we'd have this garden without you, so let's go and have a look at the utter highlights of this year and warn people that we've got various video casts coming up. We're about to record Farmer Phil opening a sack of bokashi.
Really?
Yes.
So doing something physical.
We've got Terry Walton, who's going to show us how to grow veggies.
Yep.
And we've got a beautiful hay video of the garden. So if you want to see more, not just listen to that reversing tractor, then you need to go to the Wiggly Cinema shortly. Now give it a moment, because Michelle has to do a lot of editing. Let's go. Right, Rich.
Yeah.
These are my mystery.
These are your mystery?
Yeah. Let's go in then.
Yes, well, you can get in there. Oddly enough, I have been in there myself.
Have you?
I did. I went in there to see how well it worked, to see if
Aren't
they're
you coming?
quite fun. I can probably get in. I need to take my hat off.
Yeah.
Let me get in there.
Right.
I'm in here with you.
Okay.
Oh, there we go.
Gosh, you are long, aren't
I'm
you?
going to do that again. You know, so yeah, too long to get near with you.
Come in, Rich.
There we go. Okay, I'm going to try and get this wise. It doesn't.
You've made these
Doesn't
big
seem
enough.
any less entertaining. Well, I made them large enough. Oh, my thing's caught. Oh, I made them large enough for 4-year-olds, but
Right, I see.
not for 6,
Oh,
3,
we-
40-year-olds,
You mean we're not
or
supposed
39-year-olds.
we're not supposed to be in here?
Okay. Oh, that's fabulous, isn't it? Hello. Because you're not bad looking close up.
Thank you. Do you want my teeth
Yeah,
out?
looks nice as well. Got nice eyes, actually. Oh, fair
What's the
play.
point of them?
For children to run through and run around, and actually yesterday, it was a quiet day yesterday, first day of the festival and things like that, but Michael and Mary got some great footage of little children fraping into here, and they sit in here and they can chat and they can go through the ends. And I brought my shears with me because I'm going to prune the exits so that they give them a sense of direction.
Oh,
and
I see.
I know you cunningly put
Yeah.
the table and chairs in
My
place
trip hazard.
to try and discourage such things.
Because, of course, I don't want any
you don't
children on the
I
garden
want
at
to
all.
ruin the garden. but these are fab. I'm pleased with the way these turn out, and it's a very different day to the one that I came at between Christmas and New Year to put these in.
They look fantastic. Are they easy to make? I mean, did
they're
you...
a piece of cake to make, really. It's just a question of
But how come they
working
grow?
out-
Because
working out shape.
they're sticks.
They're willow, so it's just a question of making a hole and sticking both ends into the ground.
And it just works.
And bending them over, and it works very well. Willow tends to grow better. I mean, people always think that willow grows well in really boggy ground, but it grows best in well-drained ground that has access to moisture, but it's much better when the ground drains, so they're not constantly sucking water. But this is, the soil here is relatively moist, perfect place for willow bowers.
Does it support any native species or anything?
You certainly will. Willow's great for attracting lots of wasps.
Wasps?
Yeah, you tend to find at the end of the
Brilliant.
season. they're
So we
all
put
here.
the children here, and then they get stung by the wasps, and then they don't come back.
Fortunately for us, the Hay Festival finishes long before these things will get inundated with wasps. I mean, schools often suffer from wasps inundating their willow structures, towards the end of the year, it's around about sort of September, August, September time. And Eden have had real problems with their willow sculptures because they tend to get proliferated with wasps at the end of the year. Yeah, but these will be fine here, so that's a good thing. I don't think I'd have put them in had I thought that the festival was going to run at the end of the summer rather than at the beginning.
Really? Good Lord. Okay, let's go and have a look at the chamomile seat.
Fabulous. We're going to try and get out of here, and of course I've got it.
Yeah.
So I'm going to have to go out feet first because I came in head first, and there's absolutely no way I can turn around.
You're very long, aren't you?
Yeah.
That's the trouble.
Yeah, it's almost sort of bend myself. Put myself into two. Here we go. Well, I hadn't considered I'd need to get in this again, but I'm glad I did. Oh, it takes me back.
God.
Superb.
Yeah, very hard.
But they're very robust, those things. That's what I love about willow is you can knock it around, and that's perfect for children, of course.
And I love the edge around the garden because we've got all this ragged robin, which looks fantastic.
It's gorgeous, isn't it? And it's come out really well. I mean, this is perfect this time of year. In fact, it's probably one of the main features of the garden, certainly one of the floral features, because it's perfect. It's just the right timing. And I was disappointed with the apple blossom because those apple trees.
Yeah.
I asked the guys whether they could supply us with some apple trees that blossomed at this time of year. And they said, yeah. So they gave us these trees, and most of the blossom is finished. And I kind of think they probably just gave us some apple trees that were left over in stock. Anyway, not to worry. But they do, there's a couple in blossom, but at least there's plenty of fruit on those for some harvesting later on in the year. And this bun, Hev, is great, isn't it?
I love this bun. And the chamomile smells beautiful.
Does it smell?
Yeah.
It's gorgeous. Actually, it is gorgeous. Well, Jodie's done an amazing job planting this up.
Yeah, thank you, Jode.
Yeah, it's superb. And I particularly like the way that the welly boots are traipsing over the top of the bun.
Yes, that's to stop anybody sitting on the seat.
Well, I think next year it'll look absolutely amazing. But I mean, this year it looks really brilliant. But it'll be completely inundated with chamomile next year.
And lastly, for now, I want to talk about this pile of rubbish.
Right.
Because on Wednesday,
Yep.
Mark Eccleston, our photographer and Wiggly friend,
Yep.
is going to turn this heap of rubbish into a lovely wildlife habitat.
Wonderful. Excellent. Well, there's an interesting. I mean, essentially, it's kind of almost is. I'll be interested to see what.
You like it as it is.
How he's going to change it, really, because perhaps you just give it a little bit more order. Maybe I suppose the idea is that it'll just be involving pint-sized people in the creation of a bit more space for nature on this garden.
Yeah. Also, he's got some bits to add, so corrugated paper and bug boxes and bits and bobs. So,
Yeah.
And also, I mean, a lot of people won't like that in their garden.
No.
Whereas if it's ordered,
yeah,
the wildlife don't mind, do they?
They don't. As long as it's undisturbed and the rest
Yeah.
of it. And he's planted some wonderful honeysuckles next to all the fencing. So the honeysuckle now is relatively large, so they'll settle in. And of course, the beauty of this garden, in fact, loads of people have already said how wonderful they think the garden looks. And of course, the idea was, when we put the garden in originally, is to have something ever-changing and to make small but significant improvements year on year, and that's exactly what we've done over the course of these last 6 months.
Do you like the Wiggly B&B?
I was very
For
good.
bees.
As I was impressed by your ability to pluck such expressions from the air.
Well, I didn't pluck that one. That one is thanks to Karen at Hopton House B&B,
Okay.
who at her B&B has made a B&B for bees too.
Oh, wow.
So she gave me that idea.
Oh, fantastic.
And Help the Bees, Save the Bees on Twitter also came up with that idea. So that's why we've got a little special bee garden with all sorts of bee nesters, one working mason bee nester and some bug bricks and things to encourage people to think about bees this year, particularly because they're not in good shape, are they?
No, it's dark decline. But it's funny, I heard something the other day that urban bees are doing much better than rural bees. So people with hives in the middle of Islington seem to be managing their bee populations much better than people in the darkest depths of Herefordshire.
Gonna blame the farmer again?
Yeah.
Right.
Where's Phil to defend himself? Oh dear, he's not around.
He's just opening a sack.
Yeah.
That's what he's good at, opening sacks.
Poor Phil.
Oh, just before we finish, Rich, I must ask you to show me that fungi, because you really like that fungus, don't you, on that apple tree.
I do.
What is it? Let's just go and have a look.
Apple graveyard.
All that tinking you can hear, dear listener, is because it is raving windy. It's not exactly a gale, but, you know, it's windy.
It's atmospheric, isn't it?
Yeah, and there's these lovely, massive, colourful purple and blue and lilac flags, and they keep tinking everywhere. But can you hear them? Tink, tink,
tink, tink. Well, it's quite nice when you look up in the sky because the sort of air pressure is relatively low. All the house martins go quite low down, and you see there's a few swifts in amongst them as well against that dappled sky.
So here we are. We're going along the Wiggly Walk. I put it's a public right of way.
Yeah, that's good.
And so I'm looking at the apple tree that's
in the apple graveyard.
Yes.
Apple tree graveyard.
And there's some beautiful looking mushroomy stuff.
It's wonderful, isn't it? I'm not sure what species of bracket fungi it is, but it is nevertheless a bracket fungus of sorts.
And what's it doing?
I find it the most wonderful thing, because you've almost got those sort of concentric rings that you might see in the annuli in the middle of a tree trunk. You know, just kind of emerging, and it's just kind of that wonderful layered feathery finish on the outside of the tree. Well, of course, fungi are decomposers, aren't they? I mean, ultimately that fungus is breaking down and rotting down that tree. You know, it's feasting on the deteriorating tree. That's what's giving it life. You know, it's one of the many decomposers that will ultimately break that tree down and turn it into something to continue feeding the meadow.
And does that tree support presumably supports lots of centipedes?
There's all
what's
sorts
in
of
there?
little mini beasts in there. Well, there will be, like exactly as you say, there'll be centipedes that are feeding on, and some of the herbivores amongst the bark, like wood lice, and there are millipedes, and there will be various ground beetles, all sorts of little creatures that you need to get in a garden to attract the rest of the wildlife. In fact, there's a little spider just on that stone there that's kind of making a break for it, you see.
Oh, yeah.
And all these things. I mean, that's subtle. Interestingly, when I was doing this garden, because the garden's in the middle of this field, you kind of think, I wonder what the wildlife it's going to attract. But it's a wonderful little paradise in the middle of this field, because when all the marquees have gone in a couple of weeks' time, they've got this big blank grassy space full of rye grasses and things like that, and a few sheep, nothing else. So there's a world of opportunity for all sorts of creatures here. But when I was doing the little rain garden, this moisture retentive area that we have below us, there was a little rabbit bouncing underneath the staircase as I was digging it.
I saw him, Rich.
Did you?
Yeah. I'm afraid he was flattened just over there.
Oh dear. That's
Sorry
a shame.
about that.
Oh, no, never mind.
Yeah.
Never mind. Yeah, it does look fantastic, doesn't it? Everything's really coming into its own now, and I think it's a wonderful example of how wildflower turf, for instance, turns out, because people often balk at you, think, oh, that's quite expensive stuff, but isn't that amazing? You know, there are no thistles, there are no docks, there are no nettles.
There's one.
There's just that nettle there is actually ensconced in the root of that apple tree. So I think it probably came with the apple tree. But we'll leave that nettle, see how it goes. So hopefully it won't inundate the space, but nettles shouldn't do too well here because there's very little nutrient. It's pretty poor ground.
But people get annoyed because their wildflower garden looks wonderful one year, and then the next year it's all changed.
It is an ever-changing thing, but don't you think that's wonderful? Yeah, I think that's the best thing.
But our village hall, at the moment, the first year it was absolutely flowery, and this year it's sort of plantainy. But there is flowers there, but they don't like it as much because it's not as flowery.
Yeah,
but I like the grasses. I think they're cool. It's just getting used to the fact that it's not going to be the same every year.
Yeah, absolutely right. And sometimes you do get a whole load of plantains in there, and it might mean that you need to tweak the garden a little bit. You need to go out there and just get a little spade and cut out the plantains to thin them out. Pave the way for some of the other species. Every patch of land that looks like it does is maintained in a certain way. So, and why would you not want to be involved in some maintenance? It's all part of the process, isn't it?
Isn't it interesting how all those oxide daisies have clung around where the fence is?
Yeah. There seems to be a proliferation there, doesn't there? I don't know why. But,
anyway, come on.
A bit later on the garden than they were last year as well.
I know,
at home,
last year.
They're everywhere, and I've seen them, lots of road verges and things like that. But here, they're just about to go. I think if we have some sunny days, they'll pop out and give us some of their splendour, but in the meantime, they seem to be a bit reluctant.
Anyway, let's go back. On the way, I want to tell you that Monty Don's TV programme, My Dream Farm, came to Blakemere last week.
Okay.
And there was 2 lovely ladies who are going to set up a flower farm. Well, they have set up a flower farm.
Right.
Right on top of a hill in Kent.
Right.
Where the soil is extremely poor.
Right.
One of them is pregnant and one of them has a broken leg.
Right.
And they came to see if, they were on the right track. And once they'd seen us and what we managed to do, they were very confident that they would make a success of it.
Oh, wow.
Because if we can, they definitely can.
Yeah.
So let's have a listen to Jen and Beck when they came to Blakemere. And at the same time as this podcast was being made, it was being filmed for the telly. So if you want to see it, it'll be going out in January, February 2010. So keep your eye on the Wiggly blog Facebook group to find out when it's on. Welcome to the Wiggly Podcast. This week on the sofa, you're joined today by Heather from Wiggly Wigglers, and I've not got my normal team, which is Richard and Farmer Phil. I've got 2 young ladies. Would you like to introduce yourselves?
I'm Beck. I'm Jen, and I'm Beck's cousin.
Oh, you're cousins, are you? Well, we didn't know that. Oh, that's nice. So this is a family business.
It certainly is.
Now, come on, girls, tell me all about it. What are you doing here? There's a television crew on just behind me. Say hello, Mark.
Hello.
And Caroline.
Hello.
There we are. And they've got the film crew. I'll put the picture up on the blog, dear listener, of them filming.
It's on the blog rather than the bog, please.
Absolutely. It's these teeth. The listeners know all about my teeth issues. So, tell me about your business.
Well, we started last February, so we've had one growing season and we're just starting the next.
Yeah.
And we're growing flowers and foliage, and we're selling them as bouquets, and we're doing weddings as well.
And events.
And events, yeah.
And we're renting an acre on our family's fruit farm in Kent. So, Kent and Herefordshire have got a few things in common, although we've noticed that your soil is a lot more beautiful than ours. But we're in a real apple growing area.
You need some worm compost.
Well, I have had a worm hotel in the past.
Right.
Sorry, I think that might be another brand. But I have
It's
had
okay,
a worm
darling.
composter
Yes.
in the past, but I left it when I moved out of London. So, yes.
So a London girl has
No.
left her top job to go and grow a few flowers.
No, I'm a country girl, born and bred on a livestock farm in Kent. So I was in London temporarily,
Yes.
getting a bit of a career that I could take anywhere with me. Yeah, and that sort of worked out. So I work part-time as a journalist, but for about 6 or 7 years, Beck and I have been hatching this plan. And it's finally happening. So it's really exciting. And I've moved back to the bosom of the family.
What do the family think? Because are they big farmers? Are they?
There's 2 farms, so there's the farm up on the top of the hill which we're growing the flowers on, and then there's another farm down in the valley, and they're not huge farms, they're sort of medium-sized fruit farms, about sort of 150 acres,
Yeah.
and the one in the valley is about 100 acres.
Yeah. So polytunnel, strawberries, what's the score?
Fruit, apples and pears,
Okay.
yeah, with a little bit of arable. No, they're really behind us and really keen, and I think they're just pleased to see that we're using some of their assets, basically, because I was trying to think what Mum said.
Your mum explained when we first had a proper family sit-down about, was this last year or 2 years ago? We had a sit-down to say, we were serious and we wanted to rent the land and we wanted to rent a shed, and we're paying, the commercial rate for it, because as a family we've always found that works best. I mean, we have had we've had favours, I can't say we haven't been helped, but we want to do it on a business level so that there's no falling out.
Yeah.
But we had a sit down and Auntie
Don't
Mary...
tell Farmer Phil, because he'll start charging for his sheds.
Yeah, darn. But no, Auntie Mary said that, as you might understand from farming, that unless you're an enormous farmer, farmers don't make a lot of money, and so Auntie Mary said that they can't pass lots of cash on to us, the next generation, but they can pass on this wonderful asset, and we feel incredibly privileged to be able to use this bit of land. But so the fact that this generation, a whole bunch of us, are all showing an interest in the farm in different ways, and as parents, I think that they couldn't have wished for more in a way. Otherwise, the farms would probably just be sold. That would be it, you know.
Yeah, absolutely. So you've got this acre of land and you've got a shed. And you've got more than a dream now. This is in operation.
Yeah.
What has been your complete highlight of the past year?
I think last summer there was a few occasions when we'd be out on the plot, as we call it, cutting flowers, and there's 2 churches that are either side of the plot, and in the evening we're not that high, but we're up on the Greensand Ridge looking over the Low Weald, and you get the most fantastic views, and the church bells would be ringing in the evening, and we'd be there cutting flowers, you know, for a wedding the next day or something, and, you know, we'd sort of look up a few times and see each other with armfuls of flowers, and that was lovely because...
you bunch of Margos.
It's making my hair stand on end just thinking about it.
But, you know, we'd spent the winter, since February, the trees came out in the February, and then we had the most appalling weather.
When you say the trees came out, Heather, it was a Bramley orchard.
It was a Bramley orchard.
Oh, I see, okay.
So, and it's been a Bramley orchard for decades, and the trees came out in February, and then we got the land, and we had to rabbit fence it, because it is like watership down.
Yeah.
And we did it, Beck... does this as a job. We did it ourselves, 2 girls and a little bit of help from the boys in the snow last year.
But it was just the most grim weather, and it's on the top of a hill, so it's quite windblown. And
have you thought about camping for a holiday to really put yourself through it?
I don't mind camping. But no, we were just there. We were in the sleet and freezing horizontal rain. You know, just trying to get things set up and trying to get the ground prepared. So to be finally picking flowers in the summer with nice weather and finally having done it, you know, gone through all that hardship of the winter to just, you know.
If we make a go of it this season and it looks like we can make a bit of money out of it, we've got to make our shed more people friendly for the winter, because the whole plot and shed in the winter is just unbearable.
Yeah.
It's really cold.
It's an old, my grandfather started growing mushrooms in the 50s.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and then they kind of stopped in the 80s, so there's a load of mushroom sheds, and they're really well insulated because they needed to be warm and kind of humid to grow the mushrooms in. So we've got this great shed, which is really, it's a big area, and it's really well insulated, which in the summer is really good because it stays quite cool, so that's really nice for the flowers. But in the winter it's freezing cold,
and we need to address a few damp issues and
so we need to get a bit
What's
of heat
your
there.
background then?
Well, I grew up working on the farm in my holidays, and then sort of after uni for a couple of years, or a year or so. But I did a degree in environmental biology, and then I work as a countryside officer, and I do environmental education, and I take children on farm visits and teach them about the countryside. And
you're a composter, aren't you?
Yeah, and I'm a compost advisor.
Oh, that's so cool.
Yeah.
Welcome to my...
I know, and so we've been, you know, I've been getting your catalogues for years, you know, and like looking at them all, and my mum is a great fan as well.
Oh, that's nice.
I know.
So, I mean, the obvious thing for me to say is you're off your rockers, aren't you? Because how are you
Don thinks so.
Does he? Oh, heck! Farmers all over the country are struggling to make a living out of 150 acres. English flower farming, well, it's been on its knees. You know, I mean, I was so pleased to grow our first crop of sunflowers in Herefordshire because there wasn't any up until that point. But the argument would be, listen, girls, what are you thinking of? How are you going to make this work?
Well, I was working on various newspapers and reading big articles about the negative environmental impact of imported flowers.
Yeah.
And I just started to feel this sort of groundswell of people starting to realise that imported flowers are not a good thing, and that a bouquet of flowers is about the most unenvironmentally friendly present you could give somebody. And I just started to think, right, you know, this is building up, and people were getting much more into box schemes for veg and all of that sort of thing. And I thought, right, now is the time to do it. If we don't do it now, we're going to miss the boat.
Yeah.
That's what I think is the difference between if we'd tried it 5 years ago or 10 years ago. I think that people, now is the time that people will be interested in what we're doing.
And I think also the flower industry or the floristry industry is so kind of on the back foot in comparison to the food industry. We've had the big farmers market, you know, movement that's been going for 10 years maybe.
Yeah.
And I, you know, sold apples at farmers markets with my mum, and have seen how, you know, how that's grown and how just how the food industry has got much more into local seasonal produce, and there's loads of cookery programs, and lots of people are talking about cooking seasonally, or and how healthy it is for you, and all this kind of stuff. And yet the floristry industry is still, the conventional floristry industry is still very into, you can get whatever flower you want, whatever the time of the year, because we'll get it from either from Kenya or from Holland from a heated polytunnel. But I think that will slowly change.
Beck and I did floristry courses last year at a local environmental and horticultural establishment. So this is supposed to be at the forefront of educating people about floristry and horticulture. And our tutors were utterly unaware of the environmental impact of the materials they were using, the flowers we were using. And Beck, it was quite funny. I was just sort of subtly chuckling at what we were being told and thinking like, goodness, and what a lot of plastic. And Beck one day said to our tutor, where does this moss come from that we're using in these wreaths?
We're making Christmas wreaths.
Oh no.
And she didn't know, and then I think Beck looked into it, and it basically...
Well, it's it's sphagnum moss, and I thought, well, I'll give them because the girl thought that it was from a good source and it was all okay. But I did a bit of research on the internet. Sphagnum moss just takes forever to grow, and there's massive issues. Really, I don't think you can have a sustainable source of sphagnum moss. And we make Christmas wreaths. I mean, I've been making Christmas wreaths for 5 or 6 years, kind of just selling a few, for friends and family. And I use willow as a base.
Yeah.
And I just couldn't bear making this wreath out of this sphagnum moss. And it's wild.
Made you cross, didn't it?
It did. And I would question everything. And I'd say...
She was the real pain in the
where are these flowers from? Well, blah, blah, blah. And anyway, just kind of making a bit of a pain for myself.
So what area are you going to serve with flowers? How's it going to work? I mean, how's it worked so far?
English and green, as we're known.
Ruth,
that was the cameraman just hitting them. Yes, absolutely. Okay, so English and green is your name.
Green is
That's nice.
We're lucky in the fact that we're...
Very posh.
Well, yes.
Better than Beck and Jen.
Yes, it is. We could have morphed our names. It's sort of not supposed to be posh. Hopefully people will see from our website that it's not about being posh. We're lucky in the fact that we're in the southeast of England and we're in the Garden of England. So we are sort of 40 minutes, if it was at 4 a.m, from New Covent Garden.
Good Lord, I'm so jealous.
Well, yes, I didn't mean to make it sound like that. But London is sort of on our doorstep.
Yes.
Go up there for work. But so far we've done a certain number of bouquets for family and friends. We did a few weddings, and I got a little bit of a racket going, taking bouquets up to my fancy office in London. And I take them in, and it's the sort of office where you get the most expensive florists in London, delivering bouquets to the editors to, butter them up. And then I'd come in with...
Oh, I must try that.
Oh, no, you definitely should.
Tip.
Oh, absolutely, yes.
I never thought of that. Bribery.
Yes, how it works. I'll walk in with one of our bouquets, and everyone in this open plan office will go, wow, what's that? That's really different. And so now I have a little bit of a line in taking bouquets up to my colleagues.
Now, we're sitting here, and Betty TV are here, and you're on this programme called My Dream Farm.
Yes.
And you've mentioned Monty Don. Now, girlies, what are you doing here? That's what I want to know.
The beginning of it.
Yeah, let's go back to the beginning.
Well, the nice thing was that although I sort of work in the media, Betty found us by real chance in the fact that when I moved back from London, I read in my mum and dad's Farmer and Grower magazine, which isn't something I spend a lot of time over.
That's quite good.
No, I'm beginning to like it more. But that they were giving grants to women returning to agriculture. And I saw this article and I thought, OK, I'm female, I'm returning to agriculture or horticulture, I'll look into this. And then by complete chance, a few weeks later, I was doing wedding flowers for a friend, and I sat down on a table, and the man next to me was the guy who allocated grants for that scheme.
Cool.
And he just said straight away, yep, you're eligible. So we applied for these grants, which paid for my horticulture course and our floristry courses and one or two other things. And then the TV people put an advert out or went looking for people doing this and contacted that organisation and said, do you know anyone who fits this description? So...
Yeah, so we got a call from lovely Diane who said, "There's a production company looking for people, and I think they, they'd like you or whatever." So I'm pretty rubbish at getting in touch with anybody. So Jen just got onto it quickly, emailed back.
Yeah, I want attention.
Yeah.
which was great. And so someone from Betty came out, did a sort of 1 or 2 hour interview with me and Jen to just talk about everything that we do, and then took it back to the board of executives.
The Betty board.
The Betty board.
Yes.
To see if we were, what they wanted. And yeah, we were one of the 6 farms that they chose. Well,
For what?
farms.
For a series
Yes.
which is coming out in January and February 2010, and it's a 6-episode series, and will be one of the episodes, and Monty Don is the presenter, and we're quite lucky because we're doing horticulture, so he's a pretty good advisor as well, for us, advisor and presenter.
And how have we got here? How are we on this
Well, because
teleprogram?
Monty
We've
suggested...
got to butter Heather up here.
Well,
Yes, for the podcast. Yes, they absolutely love us.
Well, no, it's...
I've known about you,
Yeah.
for a long time. And Monty suggested that we needed to go and talk to a company that was doing something that we were doing.
But also at the beginning they said, who could you go and speak to? Who would be your sort of dream, your ideal people to talk to? And we did a very short list, and
you were at the
guys
top.
Oh,
And we
cool.
said we'd really love to come and see Wiggly.
Well, I must say it's been great having you.
Oh, well, we really appreciate coming, and you've been so open with all your, advice and help and stuff. It's
No
great.
problem.
But-
You've been brilliant too. I must tell
good.
the Wiggly listener that I think they found us a new way of wrapping the bottom of our bouquets, which is
we'll
great.
see.
Yeah.
And we've both been part of doing a Wiggly bouquet,
Oh,
which was
yes, we
exciting.
did.
Oh.
We both made a Wiggly bouquet.
I wonder who's.
Yes, I wonder
Where
who
did it
had
go
that.
to? Do you know
it'd
who
be
it
nice
went
to know.
to?
It'd be nice to know.
Yeah.
It might have gone to the people I put in touch with you last
Yeah.
week.
Oh,
That'd be
yeah.
funny,
have
wouldn't
you been
it?
passing people?
I
like
did.
this? Thank you
yes,
very
yeah.
much.
That's all right.
The other totally brilliant thing about it is that because you are the only people we know of in the country doing this sort of thing, you feel totally lost because you don't have people you can go and ask for advice. So to be able to meet someone who's done this ahead of us, is a few years ahead of us, and has learnt from their, maybe from mistakes or not, or just
Definitely,
new experience, it's fantastic to be able to just run really simple questions by you that that you've already been there and done it.
No
So-
problem. Now, you can do something for me.
Oh.
What does Monty say? What's Monty the guru told you to do? Because should I do that? What's his advice?
Well, what was lovely, and this does tie in very well with what you're doing, is he told us to totally be ourselves and let our personality come out in our business. And that was really refreshing, because the last thing we want to do is be some faceless corporation, and I think Wiggly Wigglers have done that brilliantly.
Oh, thanks, love.
Oh, you are. You're from everything. From the personal, the information that you get when you get a bouquet, and your website, and also your catalogue. You see pictures of who's working here.
And the fact that your name is totally nuts, but it's gone this far.
Yeah.
No marketing guy said you've got to be Wiggly Wigglers.
No, he definitely didn't. In fact, complete opposite. Well, I tell you what, it's been brilliant having you on the Wiggly Sofa.
It's been lovely to
And
do my
it's
first
great.
podcast.
Yeah, it's great that Mark put his head in the light as well. Thank you for that. And Caroline's just sitting on the floor relaxing because I don't know what they do, those media types, do you?
No.
Hey,
But
darlings.
podcasts are quite painless.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Podcasts are
We'll have to
painless.
get podcasting.
Now we have to leave it for 5 seconds for Michael.
Okay.
Ready? Go. The thing that we've missed is to meet our new chickens. Phil, you've met the new chickens, haven't you?
I have, yes. The other evening, Rich, Heather phoned me up and said, what time are you finishing work? Can you give me a hand to take the chickens up to hay? I said, yeah, no trouble. So the chickens were in their crate, and we trundled up to hay, and we put the chicken house in the middle of the garden. I sort of was thinking we ought to be careful, given that these chickens are new to us. But anyway, hey-ho.
I forgot that. I was thinking they were my chickens, and my chickens, you just pick them up and stuff, and they just sort of, well, you know what they're like. Well, I know they're dead now, but they were, when they were alive, very pleasant chickens. You just pop up to them, and they go, "Meow," and then you pick them up. But these chickens weren't the same.
No.
So Heather
They were
opened the crate
very tame, the last two.
and captured one and put it in the hen house. And then while she was doing that, one came out of the crate and disappeared behind her. And whilst we were looking at where that had gone, the one that was in the hen house came out of the hen house because yours truly hadn't put the door back on it. So at
And
this
he was
point,
saying, "You stupid woman," and then he left the door open and another one came out, and they then started running around the place. they went out of the garden and the crowd gathered, and Farmer Phil doesn't really like chickens, and of course he doesn't like running, and so he's got sort of looking pompous.
Doesn't like chicken. Like
luckily, he got his luminous green Visi jacket on,
Visi vest,
which left him amply qualified for chicken catching.
So he's looking grumpy and holding his arms out when the organiser of the festival came
Yeah,
along.
I did. Actually, a few people mentioned this to me yesterday. They said, "Oh yeah, we saw the chickens escaping. did you help?" And they said, "No,
No.
stood and watched and had a chuckle."
Yeah, they said, "How are you, Heather?" And I said, "I'm fine. The chickens are just taking a walk." And
Just give us a tour.
Ran around the garden.
This is where you're going to be for the next 10 days, guys.
Splatting ourselves, trying to capture chickens.
Did you have visions of them disappearing across the showground?
Completely visions of them disappearing.
Luckily, we had
Especially
one of the three still in the cage.
Right.
Yeah.
So that was what lured the other two back into the... Had we lost all three, then
I
there
don't
would have
think
been...
we'd have ever seen them
And
again.
I was thinking that I could have rounded them up in the Sky News tent. That was looking quite favourite as the corral to put them. But
Yeah. You definitely had something to talk about with Mariella Frostrup then last night.
Oh, yes.
You've had some common ground.
Anyway, the chickens, last time they were called Lillian, Valerie and Flora,
Right.
after Monty's grannies.
Okay.
Well, this time they've
You have
been
three
named...
grannies.
great grannies.
Well, detail. Actually,
Great grannies and grannies.
Yes.
Okay.
Anyway, and now this time Hay Festival have named them. And I'm a bit worried because Oberon is a boy, isn't it?
Oberon. I think it was a Greek god, isn't it? Oberon.
It's
like
a
me.
Shakespeare thing.
Like you,
So-
that's
King
right.
of the Fairies in Midsummer Night's Dream.
That's right.
Oberon is a boy, isn't it?
Oberon is male, certainly.
And so one's called Oberon, one's called Hermia, and one's called Peas Blossom. And I'm really glad we haven't got a fourth because he would have been called Mustard Seed. Can you imagine that?
No.
I'm
Slightly
thinking
unfortunate.
of renaming them when we get home.
I bet there'll be some
Hilda.
children coming to this festival with more peculiar names than that, though.
Absolutely. Now, Rich, don't you want to know how we've reached 2.6 squillion million
I do.
listeners for the
2.6
Wiggly?
million you're talking
Million.
about. Okay.
Without fibbing.
So, yes, give it to me straight.
I was invited to Woman's Hour on Radio 4, which has 2.6 million listeners, to talk about social media and how rural business can use it.
Right.
And when I got there, Sid said, who was in charge of the show, Sid said, would you mind if we used a bit of the Wiggly podcast, a clip? Because it's ever so good,
Right.
I said, it is supposed to be good. He said it's quite professional. I said it is supposed to be quite professional. He said the sound quality is good. I said I'll tell Michael. He said, would you mind if I used it? And I said, let me just think for half a second. No, I don't mind. And it went out on air with Jenny Murray, and the Wiggly Podcast made Radio 4 Woman's Hour.
Fantastic.
That is
Can't be
cool.
bad. No, it can't be bad at all. And which particular extract was it, incidentally?
Coming up, pesticides. Was it a fluke? Farmer Phil something or other. That was it. There we
Farmer
are.
Phil on Woman's Hour, Rich.
Yeah, well, that seems appropriate.
No Mountie on
That
Woman's
seems
Hour.
appropriate, doesn't
You
it?
know that 40% of Woman's Hour listeners are in fact men.
Are they really?
Yep.
I did bump into a couple of blokes at a WI meeting I gave a talk at once.
Bye.
And it's bye from me.
Bye.
What a-